Right then, let's get ourselves started. So this is episode 8 of the Snatch Chat podcast. There we are. I nearly forgot what episode this was then. So we've got a bunch of questions all around sort of weightlifting, technique, headspace, etc., etc. So we're just going to get ourselves through those questions. So question 1, what are the most common technical mistakes you're seeing that are stopping lifters from hitting new PBs? Okay. So what are the common technical mistakes? Snatch is most common technical mistake in the snatch would be pulling the weight overhead. Okay. I think the thing is with the snatch, it's the one with the largest range of motion. You're taking the bar from the floor overhead in one fluid movement. And I think it's really hard to not see that the movement, or to get the bar from A to B, we've got to take the bar, we've got to pull the bar overhead. And obviously it's not the case whatsoever. What we want to try and do is think about getting height on the bar by snapping or the squeezing up into extension, and then we're forcibly driving hard into that bottom position. And I think that's probably the biggest thing with the snatch, is people are pulling the bar too high and then riding into that bottom position rather than just finding that sort of the fluidity into that bottom position. When it comes to the clean, now we're talking heavier weights, or we're moving more weight than what you probably can snatch, is that you'll find lifters start to try and pull the bar, pulling the bar off the floor to generate that speed. It's a heavy weight, we've got to try and get it moving. Whereas again, we're going to try and think of the arms as sort of long, loose wires that are holding the weight, but the movement is a push. We're pushing off the floor. And then when it comes to the split jerk, trying to press it off the shoulders. Okay, again, the bar needs to go from shoulders overhead. It's a heavier weight. As we dip, the elbows drop. We're trying to sort of press that bar overhead. Where in reality, we want to think of treating the lift like a vertical jump. The higher I jump, the higher the bar travels, the more time I've got then to hit the split and lock out. Okay. As soon as people start to press that bar off the shoulders, the power ends, and then you'll find that what they have to do then is catch the bar with a bend elbow and then press out that rest of the movement. And a lot of these issues that we've sort of gone over, yes, they're technical faults. Yes, there's things that you can do to fix these with movements, but the biggest thing you've got to try and do is, or the biggest thing here is learning and understanding the process of that movements, of those movements, and you'll get the better process and understanding of the movements the more that you do it. Okay, it's not about trying to do as many different variations of the lift as possible. Sometimes we need to strip it back and work a top-down approach, but that doesn't mean that we need to try and think of loads of different exercises. We just need to work on creating those discrete snatch, clean, and split jerk skills. Okay, one cue you delete from weightlifting for forever. There is so many. All you need to do is pull a little bit harder. That's one. Think of the shrug. Shrug your shoulders. Violent shrug. I don't like that. Yeah, I think it's those two really. I think the violent shrug or pulling higher are definitely the ones that I don't like. Question number 3. What mindset shifts help lifters enjoy the process rather than just the outcome? And I think the thing here is what mindset shifts help lifters enjoy the process is it sort of answers the question there, is that you've got to enjoy the process rather than thinking about the movement, or rather than thinking about the weights that you need to lift and, just honing in on weight lifted is the only outcome. Think about the other outcomes from this. Are you enjoying your training? That's probably the biggest one. If you're not enjoying your training, you have a huge issue when it starts to get heavier and harder. You've got to enjoy you've got to enjoy what you're doing. And sometimes enjoying what you're doing is, it might well be that you strip it back and you work on things that you've not done before, things that are going to require you to break down your technique, and work on those slightly harder technicalities or technical faults that you're looking to iron out, higher volume things, just sort of switching up the program a little bit, having a slightly different focus. You don't always need to focus on snatch and clean and jerk. It might well be, you know what, let's go in, let's get that enjoyment by just squatting and pressing heavy, and then start to bleed in that weightlifting movements. Weightlifting can become quite monotonous, that it is just a snatch and clean and jerk, but it's the way that you shape that program. And the biggest priority, I think, is enjoyment, because when you enjoy it, you are consistently training. When you consistently train, you then start to have the outcomes that you want, which is lifting heavy. But whilst you're in this enjoying training and consistently training blocks, I think the one thing that you've got to try and do here is create different outcomes, or create different goalposts. Okay, that's rather than just lifting heavier. It might well be, okay, can we lift 85% with perfect technique? Can we break down these areas of our technique? Can we work on these areas to see if we can start to build this up and then start hitting 3 rep maxes? So we've got to try and create that path of moving from A to B. Okay. Question 4: hook grip. Is it a necessity or a non-negotiable? I don't even know why this is a question. It's a non-negotiable. You can snatch and clean and jerk without a hook grip, but why the hell would you? The idea of a hook grip is that you can grip the bar, so you've got strong grip, but you are then able to relax the forearms, and you're not creating unnecessary tension. When I just go for a normal grip on the bar, I have to squeeze it really hard because my both hands are over, or I've got that snatch grip position. What you'll find is that you're creating tension in the arms, you're starting to bend those arms, and that's how you're going to take the weight overhead, and you'll start to swing it out. What we want to try and do with any weightlifting movements is create that fluidity of lifting. Hook grip allows you to have that grip, but allow the forearms to stay nice and relaxed, keeping the arms nice and relaxed so you can execute the lifting itself. So it's a non-negotiable. It shouldn't even be a question. Question number 5: best simple habit that improves lifts outside the gym. Sleep. Sleep is the best thing that you can do outside of the gym that will positively impact your training. Start to look at your sleep. How many hours are you sleeping? Is that enough? Are you waking up tired? What is then your sleep routine that gets you prepared for a really good night's sleep? Okay, and I think a lot of us get sort of stuck in the trap of scrolling through social medias and losing that 30 minutes where we want to probably create a bedtime routine. What things make us tired that aren't on screens? Reading books. It might well even be stretching. It might be lights on dim, and going through more sort of breathing techniques or meditation, to actually calm the body down so you can actually get into that long, the long good sleep that you need. So sleep is definitely the thing that you need there. Next question. Question 6. How can lifters stay motivated when progress is slow but training is consistent? Very similar to the question that we've just answered. The thing that a lifter has to do is understand the weight that is on the bar is the top priority. That is what the sport is focused around. But that doesn't mean that we've always got to work towards that. What we want to try and do is think of the different things that show us progression, okay? Because progression gives us that motivation. We need to look at technique. Are we lifting better? Weight, not just 1 rep maxes, but that could be 5 rep maxes, 3 rep maxes, so on and so on. And having different parameters and different stages of our program that test these parameters. I am going to test my technique up to 85%. Can I lift with those technical improvements that I had at 70% at 85%? That might be one block. My next block of training, I want to now look at squatting a new 1 rep max, or hitting a 3 rep max, or squatting my 1 rep max for now a 3 rep max, and having a general strength goal. Before then, I look to push for my snatch and clean and jerk 1 rep maxes. So understanding what your goal is, and then looking at the branches of areas or stages of your program that can get us to the ultimate goal, that can keep us motivated and on track of progression. Okay, hope that makes sense there. But again, the overarching thing here is that what we've got to really think about is why are you training? Okay, what did you enjoy about weightlifting at the start? Okay, are you still enjoying it? If not, why not? And how can you bring that enjoyment back? Because if enjoyment isn't there in training, everything then becomes 10 times harder. That has always got to be a priority. And it's what I try and tell all my lifters first, is that we've got to enjoy this. We've got to enjoy the process. The more we enjoy the sport and enjoy the process, the more consistent we are with our training, and the higher the chances are that we can constantly get these improvements and progressions. We can't get these if we're winging it and we're not really excited about going in and hitting that session. That's my 2 pence on that. Next question. Most overrated accessory exercise for weightlifters. Okay. I'm going to say sotts press or a snatch grip sotts press. Deep squat position, for those that don't know, bar in the front, wrap pressing overhead, is a sotts press. Snatch grip sotts press, deep squat, snatch grip position, bar on my back, pressing overhead. So it's like a strict press, but in a deep squat position. Hell of a lot of lifters do it. I absolutely think it is a waste of time. It's got some benefits to a very small amount of people. The biggest issue that you find with the sotts press is that it requires a hell of a lot of mobility. A hell of a lot of mobility. You're in a deep position. You then can't load it up as much as you can with a strict press and a push press that will have more of a carryover for your weightlifting. Sotts press is a very slim, a small amount of carryover to the snatch and clean and jerk. You might feel a little bit more stable in the bottom, but if you haven't got the mobility to get into that bottom position, everything's going to be off anyway. It is definitely the most overrated accessory exercise for weightlifters. Okay, question 8. Missing lifts in training. Is this something to avoid? It is such a good question. And this cropped up in last week's podcast with Dima. Is that the biggest thing that Dima spoke about is enjoying the process, enjoying failing. You learn so much from failing. When you try and hold yourself back from that failed attempt, or in Dima's case, what she was trying to do, she was trying to go back to her old technical ways of lifting, which weren't optimal, because she was scared of failing that lift. But by doing that, we are preventing we're preventing that learning phase from happening. Failure actually gives us so much feedback that we can use instantly within the session, ready for the next set, or something that then highlights, okay, this is how that program is going to adapt over the next sort of couple of weeks. But then saying that, we don't want to go into every single session and go, you know what? I'm going to go for a 1 rep max and I'm going to fail 10 times and I'm going to hit it and I'm going to be really happy with that. We don't get any feedback from that, apart from we knowing that you're a really inconsistent lifter. So it's working within the parameters of what that session may be, and working or giving that 100%, your session 100%. And if you fail, fine, we videoed it, it gives us feedback. That doesn't mean that you need to go into every single session and be like, okay, I'm just going to add on a bit more weight and just fail because that's going to give me feedback. That doesn't give you feedback. It gives the coach feedback that your ego is too big, and that's probably then going to be your limiting factor moving forwards. Okay, failure is good. We need to actually have, occasional fails, as we actually learn so much from that. So it's definitely not something to avoid. And then final question, what would you tell every lifter in their first year of lifting? Oh, okay, I've probably repeated myself, but it's something that I do tell all my lifters that come to me wanting to learn Olympic weightlifting. From wanting to learn Olympic weightlifting and then get into that sport, the first thing you've got to enjoy is you've got to enjoy training. I know I've said it so many times within this podcast. But it's been quite a nice theme actually for this podcast. You've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy training. You've got to enjoy the sport. You've got to enjoy learning. So number one, enjoyment. You've got to enjoy that process. Number two, be a fucking sponge. What you'll find, and you only see this every now and again, and I say this lightheartedly, is that you see this with a lot of CrossFitters that come into weightlifting or want to start to learn weightlifting movements, is they rush it. They rush the process. They get to a certain week, they've lifted a 3 kilo PB, and now, okay, perfect, mastered that, and I'm going to move on to that next skill, and they switch off the learning. The biggest thing that I would tell people to be, or tell people to do, is be a sponge. Absorb as much information as possible. Follow different coaches on podcasts, social media, YouTube, etc., etc. Listen to what they're saying and absorb it. Okay, that then creates questions and a conversation between you and your coach. Okay, I've listened to this. What do you think about this? And you start to then learn different ways of doing something, and you'll find what way works best for you. So you've got to be like a sponge. You've got to absorb all information. That doesn't mean that you go onto YouTube, you watch a video of an elite lifter, and you absorb how they lift and then try and replicate that. And it doesn't mean that you go on social media, you look at goodness knows how many different coaches telling you about this early arm pull and things that to do, and try and absorb everything they've said. Okay, it's more about absorbing that information, digesting, asking questions, creating a dialogue between you, coaches, your coach, other coaches, people that are just training, to actually understand that process and what things might work for you. Thing is with weightlifting, it's very broad. There's lots of ways to fix certain problems. There's different cues that you can use to, create the change that you're looking for. But not every cue and not every exercise that's to fix that issue is going to work for you. So it's understanding what cues work for you. Some of my athletes, I tell them you've got to jump high. Treat this lift as like a vertical jump. Others, I'm like hip and drop. Don't even think about jumping. Don't worry about extension. As soon as that bar is in your hips, drop. And they're both going to reach extension, but they're now both having a cue that resonates with them and works for them. That's the thing with weightlifting, is there's loads of things and it can get really, really confusing, but you've got to find the things that work for you, grab them and hold on to them. Another lifter, I'm just trying to think of an opposite. I've got one lifter, I'm like midfoot, push off the midfoot. Okay, that's with the split jerk. I've got another lifter there on where I'm like, okay, I want you to try and think about being on your heels through the dip and drive. They both get the outcome of a perfect or a really stable split jerk, but they both are doing the same thing, but that cue resonates with them and gets the outcome that we want. Swapping those cues over and telling the person that sits onto the heels to be more on the center of the foot will create that instability, because now we're probably generating force where we didn't want it beforehand, okay? The person that sits on the heels was very active on the toes, so trying to tell them onto the midfoot is still going to create them to be on their toes as they extend. So it's, yeah, be like a sponge, absorb as much information as possible, digest it, ask questions, but mainly you want to go and have fun. Enjoy training and enjoy the process. Once you can do both of these things, weightlifting's amazing, and it really is. That has been I was going to say a short podcast. I had 9 questions and I've managed to ramble on for 21 minutes. So, but hopefully you've enjoyed that. It's given you a bit of insight. You've taken things away that you can now execute into your training, or change the way or your outlook on training. Yeah, hopefully you've really enjoyed it. Come back next week for episode 9. I'll see you then.